So for those that are home, this is our guest for the evening, Dr. Kyle McCord. We will get to him in the featured segment, which of course is right after the Meta Watch. So all we're doing right now, Kyle, is I've compiled from Gerard, our friend of the podcast. He does the was it Angels
40K
Keep?
Angels Keep,
Yeah, blog, and basically he goes through and he kind of looks at things week by week, and then I kind of go through, take his articles, put them in the spreadsheet, and then just sort of look at things at like a month by month basis of like what people are playing. So it's kind of for myself because I don't play very often, and so I can look at the spreadsheet and be like, what are the 5 units everybody's playing? Oh, it's these 5 things. And then after I put them in the list, I go, all right, and at this point I just fill out the rest of 2,000 points with what I think's fun, and I play with that. So we just kind of look at some trends or look at some fun stuff in and around all that.
Yeah. So we were just killing time while you showed up. So we could just jump straight into your experiences.
Since,
we can do that as well.
You're the main event.
Let us put the Meta Watch away for a little bit, and we can talk to Kyle.
All right, man. Well, Aaron Wish hooked you up with us about almost 2 months ago, saying that you did a really good performance in the it was ATC, right? American Team Championships.
Yeah. We went to ATC. So we've had a couple events back to back. This month has been nuts. ATC was a couple months back, where I went 5-0 in teams with Dark Angels, and then I played Iowog. It's called the Moose-tacular, and I went 5-1 there. We just had an event called the Gateway Open. I ate some bad matchups and went 3-1-1, and then I just finished a GT today where I got first with 4-0-1.
Nice. So let's get this is all Dark Angels?
Good. All Dark Angels.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we like to hear.
Well, so apologize for the delay in being able to bring you on. I unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I guess, I had to spend a month in Australia for work, and the 12-hour time difference between Western Australia and the mainly United States is not conducive to this kind of thing. But I'm really interested in this because I'm actually working up to go play a teams tournament in a month or so. It would be my first time in a teams event, so I'm really curious to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No. So it's a tournament that I'm assuming only allows a single Marine slot. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
So the we're gonna go play at the Challengers Cup in Salt Lake City, which is I think like 45 or 50 teams, like 600 something people.
Yep.
So and I'm a Dark Angels main. That's kind of my thing, and I'm one of the people that can go. So that's what we're gonna bring. I was a little concerned about it until Wrath of the Rock came out, and we pivoted real hard. So, nope, Play Wrath. That's going to be good. Until then, I spent the beginning of this year working up Librarius Conclave. But so the teams format is different, very much so, than the singles event format. Right? Sure. Just in that you can kind of control your matchups to some degree. For those who may not be familiar with the concept of teams, can you kind of run down what that is and what it looks like?
Yeah. So in the teams environment, you have, without getting too far down the rabbit hole, you have teams of 8 most of the time. And what you'll end up doing is you'll each put out what's called a defender. The defender will then be presented with 2 opposing armies that they can play into. It varies, but generally speaking, the way it works is your opponents will typically pick 2 armies that they either want to get rid of, meaning that they're like, okay, you know what, we think it's called a blunter list, where whatever they think they're attacking with, they're going to put down to a 10 or try and get a 10 on it. Or they'll attack you with a list that they think can beat you. And and then you basically roll off, and the person who's defending gets to pick their table, and there's sort of revealing of cards. Before you go into this environment, you generate what's called a matrix. The matrix is all of the opposing armies, right? And what score you think you will get into them. If you are like our team, we spend good parts of the evening, probably 3 to 4 hours, talking about, okay, well, what does this look like? What does this look like? What does this look like? And what if we start with this? And we do simulations of like what the matrix might, or what the pairing process might look like. But the key thing is this: in the team's environment, you have it on each match is on a scale from 0 to 20. If you devastate your opponent and you beat them by 50 or more points, you get a 20, and they get a 0. If you are the end score is within 5 of each other, it's a 10-10, meaning it's a draw for the team. Most matches end in like the 8 to 12 range, right? And so part of what a team wants to do, is part of the team environment, is that you can build super skew lists where you're like, I'm going to take only super heavies, which will 100% lose you the game in the singles environment, right? But on a team's environment, you can be like, oh yeah, here's my 5 super heavies. It's a bummer that you're trying to put, blank into me, right? Knights or whatever, and now I'm going to just blow you up, right? And you build lists with that in mind. So there's a little bit more tailoring that happens in that environment. So that's a very basic synopsis of it. But the team that I play, well, I play for a couple teams, but the team I play for most often is Midwest Monstars. I also play for Art of War, and then I will occasionally play for someone else, but those are the 2 main ones.
Cool.
Gotcha.
So, what made you think that Wrath was the right choice? Like, not only of just the Dark Angel available attachments, but of all Space Marine attachments. Why Wrath of the Rock?
Well, I'm very stubborn.
Fair.
And
Okay.
I'm very stubborn. So at Worlds, 2 Worlds ago, Jack Harpster, who's my buddy, and I talked about what army to bring, and I've been playing Guard. And he said, man, I got this Templars list. I think it's pretty cranked. And I said, man, I'm bored of Guard. I've been doing Guard for a couple of years. I'll play this Templars list. And got 8th with it, which was great. I was like, whoa, this thing really cooks, right? I then got into in the final rounds, I played against like Eldar and stuff, and it was like, oh, okay, well, you're faster than me. I get it, right? It was when Eldar could still do the Wraith Guard, and the Wraith Guard would like migrate, across the board in like one turn with like 5 different moves. But after I played Templars, I started getting interested in Dark Angels. And the frustration that it causes opponents. And I was playing Gladius. I played Gladius right until Wrath of the Rock came out. And I'd had some inklings about what was coming out with Wrath. And I was like, dude, I just want to wound army wide. It's like really irritating. Like it's a very troubling, because what happens is the math for your opponent is just wrong, right? They're like, okay, I think this goes into this and this does this much damage. I think this goes into this and does this much damage. And the math is just 1/3 incorrect. And so what I liked about Wrath, there were a couple of things. I'll name 3. One, I don't like when people get to just steal from me on primary and things like that. And Leonine Aggression goes, that will never happen. Now, in Gladius, you have a much tamer version of it, which is just squad tactics, where you're just like, haha, I move on to the objective, or I move away. It's a very strong stratagem. Leonine Aggression is better by a lot. Because also the thing is, people screw it up all the time. People who know better, right? And you can Leonine and Heroic. You can do both. And all of a sudden you're like, my Deathwing Knights that you thought were kind of slow are not that slow, as it turns out, right? 2, my friend Cody Giroux came up with an idea that I really liked. He was like, what if you threw Dev Centurions in it? And I was like, well, I am irritated with Ballistas, because Ballistas don't always put out consistent results. Ballistas are great right until the moment where you really 190% need them to hit and wound. And then they're like, nah, I don't think so, right? And look, they're a 140-point unit because you can't bank on them to do that. But the consistency out of the Dev Centurions was very convincing to me. And then thirdly, it puts front and center the unit that is the best, which is DWK. DWK crank in that detachment, because here's the interesting thing. They don't love Gladius that much, because Gladius is like, hey man, you want +1 to wound? And they're like, I don't know, not really, right? Like most of the time they don't care, because they're going to wound on 4s no matter what. And so they're harder to kill, right? They also just, again, multi-meltas into them is so satisfying when you're like, cool, hit me on 3s, wound me on 4s, and then 50% of the time does nothing, right? Mm-hmm. So between the added endurance, it had a unit I really liked, and then what I'll also say is this is like a general sort of like postulate about 40K. My experience is that if you play the armies your opponent expects you to take, and that they practiced into, and they know something about, then they tend to be better. Whereas if you take something and they don't know that, and they're like, oh, I've not really seen this, it hasn't done this. One of the first armies I ever did well with was back at the end of like end of 8th, when you could still mix armies. And it was like Grey Knights NDK plus guard. So it was like Manticores, tank commanders, and NDK, right? And everybody was like, how does this army work? I don't actually get it, right? And what it did was it killed you. It found you and killed you, right? It warped around, It vanished, it reappeared, and then it found you and killed you. It wasn't actually that complicated, but people would make it very complicated, right? And so that, I think, is the other big advantage, is just like most players have not had a lot of reps into it yet, or if they've had reps into it, it perhaps wasn't into someone who was skilled with it, and that makes a big difference. The answer for why I did for teams is a little different, but I can talk about that.
Right ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I've been accused of being loquacious, so I am guilty. I'll tell you guys in advance.
All right, don't worry. You're the guest.
Oh, yeah, right. So from a team standpoint, not every team wants Dark Angels, right? If you go back and some time ago, AOW had a Australian fellow they were borrowing for a while named Adam, and I'm going to get his last name wrong.
Yeah, Adam Camillari. Yeah, we're friend of the show. Yep.
Wonderful. So Adam and Jack were talking about how there were like big hitters, right? These are the people who, like, when you give them, you Parents Princess them, you protect them, you make sure they get exactly what they want, and they annihilate whatever you put them into. Like in our last tournament, we have Ryan Verbeck, who is WTC player, a great player. He's so bored of playing the host of Ascension, right? And every round we were like, okay, looks like you're playing Chaos Knights. And then his game would be over 30 minutes later, right? And he's like, they just demoralized him. He lost 20-0, right? Like GSC into Knights matches was so atrocious that we just made sure that happened every time, right? With Jack Harpster, when he played Eldar for Monstars, we were like, all right, so you get Parents Princess, right? That's your big hitters, right? Then we have what are called brawlers. Brawlers are people who just win any match, right? You're like, okay, you go win that, or you keep it really close. But those are the ones that are like a little bit variable. And then you've got a couple blunters, and the blunters are like, you're playing demons. They can't shoot you. You have 3 great unclean ones. Good luck getting more than 10, right? Like, and your job is just to keep them from running up the score. So I am a brawler. My job, so a Dark Angels list, a Wrath list is almost always a brawler list. You can't push that hard. It's like Star Shatter. Like Star Shatter is not a list that you're going to 20-0 people with, right? There are Necron lists that you can 20-0 people with. There are Space Marine lists that you could try and 20-0 people with, maybe Templars or something, right? But in general, DA wants to brawl, and they brawl really well because most armies are just not set up very well to deal with what the Rock is cooking. And so as a result, you can usually consistently be called in to get like a 12, a 13, and if they screw up, you get an 18. Screw up, you get a 16, right? And so in a team's environment, DA is going to brawl, right? And again, if you are like, we need a 20-0 list, I don't know, put Blood Angels in, right? And then just keep pairing Princess in, right? But what I'll say is that from a team standpoint, DA is amazing because even like I kept being like, dude, don't give me Necrons. I hate Necrons. Don't give me Necrons because I have an army rule. They ignore it. I have strats. They ignore it. Right? It's terrible.
They
right?
ignore the thing that makes Deathwing Knights good. They ignore that. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And the Silent King is just like mad cancer for my army. And what I figured out was I was like, man, they're like less of a problem. I just go touch everything. Right? I get in there and it's like, it's touchy time, right? I'm going to just touch everything, right? Like, and I'm going to touch it with Vanguard bets. I'm going to touch this with this thing, and then DTAs can't shoot into me, perfect. And a lot of times, like Rock is great because you can psyops people too, where you're like, I can advance and charge. How far do I go? Well, I go 16 plus charge, right? Or like, here are my Deathwing Knights. Well, how far do they go? Well, like pretty far, right? And also, I can scam movement out of you because I can move an extra 6, right? And people get wigged out. It doesn't matter how many times you explain Leonine aggression to them. They still are like, wait, can you charge me in my movement phase? No, man, I can't do that. Oh, it's the beginning of my command phase. Can I charge you? No, man, you can't charge me then. I can charge you at the one time that like it's agreed that we can charge, right? So what I'll say is it's an intimidating list to play against, especially if you play it in a way that says, this is my expansion, you can't have it. And at a certain point, if you don't move things out in the middle, I'm going to rapid ingress onto it. I'm going to just start getting ahead, and then all of a sudden it's just going to be over because I'm just going to push into you when the game ends.
So from what I'm hearing is you're really leveraging like the information asymmetry, right? Is like people, it's not a super common thing, especially probably not in the teams environment, because from what I understand, most teams Space Marines are going to be like Black Templar or maybe Space Wolves or maybe Blood Angels, right? Yep. So Dark Angels are a little less common, and so if people don't know how to play them, especially when you have this stratagem with weird terms and conditions like Leonine aggression, right? You can't move block me. I will just charge you.
Yep.
Right? Like I can out primary you on your command phase. So the things that you normally set your army up to do, I can kind of break that a little bit. Right? And if I'm used to setting those conditions up and you're not used to playing into it, then I can generate an advantage that otherwise I wouldn't have into some other lists or with some other lists.
That's very much correct. Everybody thinks that Leonine aggression is the most busted stratagem there. It's not. +1 OC is wild. Did you guys know? Yeah.
No. I first time I ever 4-1 to tournament was this most recent GT, and I stole probably 25 points off of my opponent by out OCing him in his command phase.
And you can hilariously, by the way, this is a funny trick. You get the +1 OC until it comes back to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you do it like if it comes to you and you're like, I'll do it in my turn, cool, and then you take that objective, right? You can do it again, right? You can get, I believe this is correct, I think you can get OC3 because you can keep doing it because there's not because of the traits you can modify.
Okay.
You can modify OC more than once. And look, this has only come up like one time, and it wasn't like super critical. But it stays on you, and then you can hypothetically do it again. And so the fact that you can do it, and it's great too because it's command phase, which is absolutely so non-specific. So you're like, let's see if you passed your battle shocks. Well, looks like you didn't, so I don't need to spend that. Oh, looks like you did. Okay, now I'll do it. Right? You get to do that timing, right? Because you're doing it reactively.
And you can use that stratagem before you make your battle shock check, so that even if you go to 0, you're just +1 again.
Oh, that's clever. Yeah. There's
right?
there's
So if you've already spent your auto pass battle shock for the game, then yeah,
that is cranked. It's really cranked, and it is sometimes like so. The GT that I went to today, I ended up with a DWK that was in combat with a Lord of Contagion. I was like, the game was not going well. He had successfully burned the middle and taken my expansion. I had heroic with the unit of scouts. They like all died except one, which is not enough to steal the objective back from a drone. This was playing against my friend Chris, who's playing an army that is now 180 points more expensive because it's Death Guard, and you can feel that
as they deserve. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, right. And so the thing that saved me was that one of my Terminators stayed alive in his combat against his Lord of Contagion, and I was like, boom, auto pass, boom, +1 OC. Now I get 10 points, right? That kind of swing is huge, right? Where you're just like, I can do it lots of times. But yeah, I mean, it's such a potent strat. And it shores up one of the big problems of Space Marines, which was with Templars. I was always like, man, I can't get any OC. Like, you can run ICC. It's one thing they're really, really good for. You can run intercessors, but like, I just want OC on demand, right? I want to be like, okay, boom, that's mine. Boom, that's mine. And like, that is one of the ways that you can beat Space Marines, right? Is you can just be like, okay, I know exactly how much OC you have. It's one of the things that makes a Ballistas good, by the way. It's like it has a weird amount of OC, right? But you can't do it if your opponent is like, I can bring Vanguard vets in, and suddenly now they're gargoyles, right? Now they're OC2, right? I just took all your stuff, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think I agree with you. The OC stratagem is the one that really, because a 5 to 10 point swing in primary when you're not expecting it will absolutely change everything.
It will,
right? So especially, and it can also, well, no, because secondaries will generally go off. Secondaries that require control will generally go off at the end of the turn, so it wouldn't really affect that. But I'm really intrigued by the whole stacking it by doing it in your command phase and then your opponent's command phase. That's bonkers.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
If anyone knows that I'm wrong, please do tell me, right? But I don't think I do. I think that if you're still engaged, right, you can also just be like, you know what, man? I'm engaged at the top of your turn. If you were able to get Raven Wing in, which I haven't really been able to, you could hilariously +1 OC them, fall back and charge them, charge over onto something else, beat them up, and then have OC 4 bikes if you wanted to. I think the scenario in which you do that is fairly unlikely, but like, doesn't mean I wouldn't try, right? Doesn't mean it's not wild. And look, when you're scrapping for points, when you're like, I need this to work, or I need this, having those tricks that are like more oriented. Well, let's put it this way: about 50% of the tricks for something like Gladius are about increasing your output, right? It's helpful somewhat, right? But I want my tricks to be like, I get to go where I want to. I get to put the OC that I want to here. And 3 or 4 of the strats in Wrath do that, right? Because positioning wins games. And so if it gets you into the right place on the board, especially when you got a unit that moves 5 inches, like I rolled with my Dev Centurions, I rolled an 11-inch charge today. And and he's like, dude, that's like triple their movement. I was like, yeah, dude, they're going so far. And right, they're good in combat. No, they're terrible, right? They're terrible. They're OC2, right? And so they're going to sit on that objective. And if I want to double it, I can, right? So it's hilarious how much free movement you can basically scam out of the detachment.
I consider the Leonine Aggression Stratagem to basically be a damage buff because it will get you an activation in a place you otherwise would not be able to.
Yep.
So, yeah. Okay. Well, I'm curious about the Dev Sense in Wrath. I messed around with them once, and I just couldn't get around the mobility issues because I was thinking about them from the shooting. Like, hey, I can give them +2 to strength. Yay! Now they're strength 11 las cannons, right? With that are twin linked and rerolling 1s to hit. What is your how many of them do you take?
9.
Just 1 unit of 3 or
3 by 3?
Or 3 by 3.
I know.
Okay.
What an insane person would do, right?
Yeah.
It's what an insane person would do. They are not fast. Let's not fool ourselves, right? But T7 2 up, -1 to wound, 4 wounds, especially when the Atropos is going to be moving out, is great, right? I think what you'll see for Knights is like 11 babies plus Canis, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so they are not fast. You are not, and they are not subtle, right? So I might. Is it okay if I pull up some images? I can show you guys some
Yeah,
images.
go ahead. Go ahead and
Yeah,
do a
so
screen share if you can.
yeah, let's do that. I'm going to pull this up. I'm not going to hold this up because it's got a Black Templars thing on the back. I know that's betrayal. It's a grim betrayal. All right, hang on. So this is whenever. By the way, this is a recommendation. Whenever I am playing games, especially in tournaments, I take 2 to 3 photos during the course of the game. That way, I can see all of what I was doing in the midst of it. Okay, so this is. I'll share some of these to myself. That's the easiest way to do this. And so that is like, by the way, just one of the ways that I get a lot of help is by keeping an eye on like all of the games that I play. I look at the setup. I also will go on TTS and I'll just pull up and say, okay, let's take a look at how I would want to lay this out, even if I don't have an opponent or something like that, right? Generally, I find that that's quite helpful in terms of figuring out okay, I need this to go here. I need this to go here. I have like search and destroy is super hard. For some reason, search and destroy is just the one where I'm like, like trying to get everything onto the right objective and hold your expansion. In fact, it's the one today where I kind of struggled, right? Okay, so let me make sure I can pull these up.
That's all good. I just want to point out, Heath, that we have another guest that's come on as a trend, again, going over years at this point. But remember when Charlie Andre came on and talked about his 30-40 Terminator list, he said the key to this list is all the free movement, and Kyle comes on and goes, oh my gosh, all the free movement is so great. And it's like, oh, so apparently free movement is very good in this game because we have multiple people talking about it.
Why do you think Eldar have been so good for so long? Like,
yeah,
movement is what wins games. Movement is what wins war.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to try pulling this up in a. Yeah, Charlie and I have played, I think, just the one time. He is someone who also is like great at just studiously going over his games.
Sharing screens. There you go.
There we go.
Okay, so this is setup. Okay, so if you take a look at this, you see I got the DWK. They're going to go there. My opponent has Mortarion, so they're going to get a reactive move. This is Chris, my buddy Chris Adams. And so where my Centurions are you see my home objective? They're right behind that wall there. Okay. So my opponent.
So down here in the bottom left?
Bottom left, right?
Yep.
And when I want to kill Poxwalkers, they're actually going to do a tremendous job of it because they're going to get D3 plus 2 for each guy. So they're going to put out an average of 4 shots plus las cannons. My opponent has the fun job of trying to clear these 12 wounds while not focusing on the rest of my army. You'll also notice that there's a second unit of Dev Sense there. Why is that there? Well, it's right in front of the Plexi. That Plexi gives me access to the firing lane on 6 that cuts across my opponent's expansion. It also can shoot up, which is what they ended up doing most of the game. Now, in this version of the list, I took 6 Eradicators. I then, after this tournament, cut the 6 Eradicators. They became Dev Centurions again. And there's reasons for that we can talk about. But basically, the Dev Centurions, they move into a lane and say, this is my lane. I own it. If you'd like to come out, you can choose to deal with the Dev Centurions, or you can choose to deal with the Terminators, but you won't be able to deal with both. And how many resources do you put into them? Not much. Do they need Oath? No, they do not. Do they need anything to reroll wounds? No, they do not. They natively reroll on their las cannons, right? And then they put out 1,000,000 shots. So if you go into something like Bile, If you go into something like that, like Nemo's recon list, you go into something like that, those missile shots are just disproportionately good. Strength 9 is a great strength to be at. If you need to kill something very badly, you can move up to 11. That's great too. They don't move fast, and you're not relying on them to move very fast. I would say that if you wanted to couple them with something else that does move quick, I've tried many, many things. The best I can say is a Hammer Strike ain't bad. Hammer Strike's good. Hammer Strike's a good unit because it cuts cover. It has a Melta. It has a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then is it D3? D3 strength 9, or no, 2 strength 9 shots. That can just ice things, right? And they're AP4 and AP3. But if you need really fast shooting, that's good. Or they're not going to do that. Alternatively, you can just put a 10-man stern guard with Azzy, and they'll melt anything, right? They're cumbersome. They're hard to move around, and you will end up using the advance and shoot much more than you want to. I like Azzy and 10 stern guard a lot better in Gladius because they just cook anything. But that being said, you could do that. So what I found with Dev Centurions is that you usually want to put 2 on the board in major firing lanes, and then you want to put 1 in reserves. The 1 in reserves comes in and cooks various things. Can we go to that other picture that I gave you? And you can see the emergence of the game a little bit. Yeah, okay. So you can see my dudes are all up on the wall. The Dev Centurions have come out. They've cleared the Poxwalkers. I didn't bother to kill the Demon Prince because it's Scorched Earth. You can't score more than 10, right? And things are about to go bad here. The drone is about to charge my Combi Lieutenant. Spoiler alert, it doesn't work out the way I want. Because I heroic in, hoping to keep 2 alive. Only one of them lives, which is not enough to hold on to the objective. But the other thing that happens is that these unit of Vanguard vets came out. Mortarian's going to charge them. And then I kill Mortarian. I brought in Eradicators to kill him, but the DevSense and Stern Guard did it by themselves. It turns out it's pretty good. So the DevSense, again, I didn't have to spend any resources on them. I did for the Stern Guard. The Stern Guard, whatever you shoot at, always want it to be oathed, right? And they just blinked. I don't know. They blinked like 7 or 8 wounds off him. And the Dev Center.
Do you run 5 Stern Guard or 10 Stern Guard with Azrael?
I do 5. I wish I could do more. But the problem is that they get real attractive at that point in terms of people who want to kill them. PPM, they're amazing.
It's fair.
They're amazing. But the problem is, like, in terms of board position, they're hard to move around at that point. And again, there is a real world where I run 10 of them. But you can kill anything, right? You just are like, if you don't have mortal protection, I'm just going to kill you.
I became a fan of the Stern Guard when I was playing Librarius Conclave for a few months straight, and the 10-man Stern Guard break with Librarian with the Fusillade, just holy god! Even without the crit on 5s, right? You just roll just average or a tiny bit above average, and you're throwing 5 or 6 mortal wounds at least 24 inches away, just kind of on command. And the ability to switch your oath target around, I'm at the point where I usually run 2 5-man Stern Guard squads, one with Azrael and one with Librarian, so I can get the Dev Wound shooting out of it. I'm a big fan. So.
Yeah, I tested the Librarian. I like him. I mean, I like him with Ancient Weapons Cap too, right? That dude cranks.
Yes.
I found that I usually
he cranks once.
Right. That's the problem.
Sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah, if you're going into big nights and you're like, I think that this will be a great 200-point trade. I don't find a lot of 200-point trades that I end up liking, right? I end up being sort of sad on most of them. That's why I took him out. But that dude, punches a hole in the sun, right? He's like, cool, you have this like unit of fill in the blank, right? I'm going to just like absolutely, giga punch them. So the way that this unfolds, the ERADs, by the way, were the least effective unit in the game. They came in right on the bottom portion here near the Poxwalkers, and they spent most of the game like looking for things to kill. And they just were like, we'll kill Terminators. They're not very good at that. They did it okay. We're gonna kill what happens is if you take Eradicators, if you take a 6-man Eradicators, your opponent makes one of two choices. One, I will do my damnedest to kill those guys. And they're T6 and they're -1 to wound, but the problem is they're 3 wounds and they get killed by casually by stuff. Your opponent's like, I'm playing Templars and I have a Rep X. That's bad, right? Because they'll just give you enough saves that they eventually die, right? It's not like Dev Sense where they just won't fall over, right?
4 wounds is a very important breakpoint.
It is.
Yeah.
And they can, and one bad blow drone activation means that you don't have them anymore, right?
Yeah.
So that's option one. Chris opted for option two, which was he just didn't go. He didn't put any vehicles near that part of the board. And I was like, good call, right? Like, yeah, that's how it works. Because I needed to make sure Morty died. A while ago when I was working, I did some coaching with John Lennon like a long time ago. One of the things that John told me that I never forgot was he was like, well, he had 3 rules. And one of the 3 rules was if you want something to happen, make sure it happens. If you're like, this doesn't work, I lose the game, dude, make sure it happens, right? And so I was like, well, I'll put the ERADs there, even though the math's not good. It didn't matter, right? It didn't end up mattering. But that's to say that to say that in this instance, I put them down there. They were like kind of cruising forward. They killed Morty. So then up top, things went way wrong with that unit of DWK. They just got like mulched without much trouble, which happens sometimes. And I was like, okay, so what I need to do is just give up on that part of the board. And I was like, I'm going to only play for this bottom triangle, which is really inconvenient because it's my opponent's expansion. And then what I'm going to do is he's just got like Terminators over there. They're only OC4. I have enough stupid units that I'm like, all right, Intercessors, go, down 5 points. Okay, Vanguard Vets, go. And they get murdered, right? Like every time. But the Dev Centurions are just whittling them down, right? Like whatever comes over there and kills that thing, I shoot to death with the Dev Sense. Then I shoot to death with the Dev Sense. And then that process repeats so that they're not getting ahead of me on material, and I'm not giving them they don't have the time because they're busy killing those things. They don't have time to deal with a bunch of Dev Centurions sitting in the back of the board.
How many units of Deathwing Knights are you running here?
Oh,
2 or 3?
3.
15? Yeah. Okay.
100%.
We have seen a surprising amount of our lists and our kind of breakdown that are only running 2. It's about 50-50 Wrath lists that are 2 versus 3, which when I went to 3 units, I was it was an instant upgrade. Just changed the game completely.
I would challenge anyone to find me a better unit, right? Like if you're playing if you're playing Stormlance or Gladius or something like that, yeah, all right, I could see why you might do 15. However, here's the thing. If you ever want to know if a unit is good, see if it actively enrages your opponent. If a unit of Deathwing Knights actively enrage your opponent, they're like -1 damage and they're -1 to wound, can't kill these guys, right? And like us as players, we know that every time one of those dies, it's like, dude, that's 50 ppm. It's like a character, right? It's like crippling. However, to most people, they're used to just like point, click, remove. And so I was playing against Black Templars this weekend, and it was like, it's 80 million lethals. I'm going to AOC. Cool. I'm going to -1 damage. Cool. And like, they get to ignore the army rule. They're just like, oh, well, we wound you on 3s when we're strength 5. You know what's weird? Templars, Power Fists, wound you on 4s, but their swords wound you on 3s.
On 3s, yeah.
Yeah, that is bizarre. Yeah. So he's
math's gonna math.
Right. He like goes in with this marshal and all the guys, right? And I'm like, and I know, I'm like, you're not going to kill much, man. And then I crack him back with the Deathwing Knights. I kill a bunch of Sword Bros. I kill a bunch of Crusaders. Because, yeah, math breaks down in DWK world where it's just like, oh, well, that didn't work. And look, it's why you can't have Silent King. Silent King's like, the math's not real. And he's right, and then like he breaks the world. So you can't have that. But in general, I think that DWK are mega frustrating for your opponent. They feel unfair. If a unit feels unfair, run 15, right? I would say the same thing. Like Azzy and Sternguard feels wildly unfair, right? Where it's just like, I just melt you, you just die, right? Oh,
Yep.
you're a Catan, I don't care. I grenade you. Here's 12 more.
Even better. Get
Right.
wrecked.
Yeah. Oh, you
Yeah.
reduced damage by half. That's very nice. Reduce one by half, right? Like it's still one. I would say that also the other one that people that if you haven't tested them, cause people to lose their minds is Vanguard Vets. Vanguard Vets with shields are so irritating for 95 points. Why? Well, they kill chaff pretty well. Not great. I wouldn't rave about it. But what they do, in fact, do is they hop in, charge stupid things, and not die. So, like, Morty came in and was like, we're going to charge you. I'm going to sweep. And he killed 4. That's weird. It's not really how that's supposed to work, right? But like they're -1 to wound, right? So like sometimes you just don't die.
For a pinball save, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
And they also will advance charge double OC, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, like how do you stop this from doing this? You can get a huge amount of primary that way. I'm running 15 of them currently. I might do 1 unit of bikes because the bikes are also quite good, right? Just regular outriders are bananas. Their output is not good. The bikers' output is not good. If you're like, I hope that they'll kill something, they won't do that. That's not what they're here for. They are an amazing distraction Carnifex that goes in, has a lot of OC, has an inconvenient number of wounds. Unfortunately, that's the problem with the Ravenwing bikers, is they don't have an inconvenient number of wounds. They have the right number of wounds. But Outriders don't. They have an inconvenient number of wounds. And so that's, I think, the litmus test. Is I know that doesn't, it's like, look, if you're playing casually, if you're like, I'm going to have a fun game with my friends, first of all, probably don't play Rock. But second of all, the other thing I would say is, like, when you are playing units, think to yourself, is my opponent like, wait, can I see the data sheet on that? There's no way that's right. That's a unit that you should put in, right? Because that's like, oh, well, that unit is very frustrating, right? And there's lots of them. Actually, Marines have quite a few where it's like, there's no way that's right.
Where are you at on the Lion?
I wish he were better. So I think he's better now that Knights are worse. He's like an auto lose condition against the Knights. I will tell you why I took Lion out of my list. Okay. I went Lion, so I was going to go fight Morty, ramped up. I was like, yeah, baby, I'm going to get you with the Lion, right? Moment has arrived, Daddy's here, right? He reactive moves out of the way, and so then there's Morty Jr., right? It's just Rick and Morty, right? So it's the Demon Prince with the 5-up revolting. So I'm like, you know what? Kill that guy instead, right? So I don't mind. I'll kill whoever is in the way. That guy didn't even get close to being killed, right? Because and actually mathematically, he's not even that likely to get killed because you get 8 attacks. Okay, you reroll. And you reroll ones to hit, ones to wound. Let's assume that you get 100% success rate. Okay, he's going to save 4 of them. He is then going to feel no pain. From 12, he will take 8, and then he's actually not all that unlikely to kill you, which is bad, right? Because he costs 215 points. Lion costs 315 points. And anytime you uppy downy Lion, that's cute, but it's resources, right? It's also a turn that the Lion's not on the board, right? So you can bring
the Lion doesn't like leave the board for a turn. He leaves in your command phase and comes back in your movement phase.
Sorry, yes.
So so he's I agree, he's somewhere else, and you have to turn off his ones to hit and wound aura to do it. So there is a cost.
And you don't come in positioning. And you don't come in within 6. You come in within 9, right? And so the world in which I would do it is he goes up, he comes back down in their turn, ingresses, charges, murders something. That's a long timeline for a unit that I want to deliver damage. If you like what the Lion does, that's cool. Maybe just like Judy and ICC. Maybe like Judy and Blade Guard, right? Judy and Blade Guard are good. Right, give the guy ancient weapons; he'll kill a lot of stuff. Right,
that's where That's where I'm at. Like I'm on Judy and Blade Guard now because I want the ICCs, but I want them to have an invul save and fights first. So Blade Guard do that. Let's go with that.
Yeah, I mean, either one's there's an argument for either, right?
Yeah.
You even could be like, I don't need fights first. Cool, give him a chaplain. Chaplain's actually great. Chaplain with ancient weapons, right? You bash people real good with that. But like, here's the thing: if you put Lion in your list, it's not categorically a bad call. It just is. Anytime you create a unit that is 300 points or is 400 points, you have just baked a lose condition into your list because your opponent can be like, you know what, man, I got a trick to go kill the lion. And then if that trick doesn't involve them spending a lot of points, right, which could just be I failed my threes, right, and I died to a Melta, stray Melta, right, or I died to a Tyrannifex blast or something, right? You can play them very cleverly. You can do all sorts of things, but you created something that your opponent can leverage in order to win the game. One of the units that I played for a very long time, still a good unit, Land Raider Redeemer. Land Raider Redeemer is great. Gladius, and in teams, it's amazing because sometimes your opponent's just like, I don't know, I guess I lose. I can't do anything about it, right? It just runs around, in some games, it just runs around and cooks the world, right? Or it like runs 12, gets out. I played against GSC, good player. I was like, cool. He left a Saboteur out, which was a bad mistake. 12 inches forward, get out, charged a Saboteur, surrounded it, used it to touch another unit, right? All of a sudden, all of his GSC are coming in his backfield, right? But in the games where the Redeemer died, I almost always lost. And I was like, you know, man, I don't want to have something like that where my opponent can just be like, you know what, if I can get him right in the Redeemer, then he's done, right? That's not very good, right? I don't want to have a unit like that. The Lion is a unit like that where he's high risk, high reward. And again, there are units that are like that, right? Like my opponent, Chris, my buddy played Morty, right? Morty's high risk, high reward. And I iced him on 2. And that allowed me to like crawl my way back using everybody's favorite game dynamic, which was challenger cards. I was like, give me 12. I got 11. Right. So I can't take too much pride, right, in the draw because I was like, I'll just crawl my way back. Right. But part of the reason I was able to crawl my way back is that he had Morty. Right. And I killed Morty. And then it was like, okay, well, now you're down X number of points. And I can now move out and do different things again. I think sometimes Lion just ends up being more of a liability, even though, like, if he were at 290, okay, right. But I think at 315, I think he's a little high.
What I've been doing with the Lion is on turn 1, I think it's a function that forces people to change the board state. Like, if I can tow him onto the center objective, or tow him kind of out in the open a little bit, or he's screened by Deathwing Knights, or he's screened by something behind a wall that's not going to die. And they're like, okay, well, if I ignore him, he is going to come in and just end me. So I have to go in and try and kill him. And then when they do, if they kill him, okay, but now 15 Deathwing Knights just fall on top of your face. Right? And it's definitely probably a reflection of the different tiers of the game that you and I are playing at. But I have if I lose the Lion, I still generally win.
That's good.
And if I don't lose the Lion, he does a lot of damage and then dies. So
I love lure units, right?
Yeah.
That's what you'll see this actually in the image we got displayed there. You see that Demon Prince? That's a lure unit, right?
Yeah.
What you do is you move him into the center, and it didn't work because it was Scorched Earth, and I was like, I don't care, man. You're still getting a 10 either way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he eventually burned it, and I was like, I'm still not going to go get him, right? Like, the Demon Prince gets to like run around and do his thing, but like, if I'm like, I'm going to go kill that guy. But yeah, I think that's a good use of the Lion, right? If you put him on the Expo and your opponent's like, I will commit the whole universe of things. And what you do is you build your army with reprisal. You're like, I will reprise. And one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about recently is what I would describe as gradualist versus flash damage. Gradualist damage is like, I am going to chip away at you and I am going to do enough damage here, and in over 5 activations, 4 activations, 3 activations that you die. Flash damage is I have ancient weapons cap, and I put him into you, and now you are very dead. And I think that armies want kind of a mix of that, right? I think if you go all gradualist, there'll be games where you're like, dude, I couldn't kill the unit I needed to on the turn I wanted to, right? Um, but and anyone who's not played, like a lot of people approach like Dark Angels, they're like, oh, these like Terminators are going to kill this vehicle. Maybe, right? Like,
We said that earlier in this show, where it's like Terminators, definitely Terminators, they're not killy, they're just not die, right? Unless you do things like put chaplains with them or something like that, and then they can turn a little more. They can turn into the medium well of killy.
Yeah, Ancient Weapons Terminator Chaplain was the best use for ancient weapons that I found, because what you did was then you moved everybody over to swords, and it made it so you're like you could fish with your sustained guy and then look for dead wounds, and it made him kill enough, but it created just like too much of. But yeah, no, I agree. The DWK in general are a gradualist unit, right? If you try and approach them like they're going to be a flash unit, you're going to play the game wrong. So then what you have to do is build the rest of the army with flash damage. For me, that's dev sense. I'm like, boom, I'm going to do it. Like, if you are Bile and you put a unit of 10 possessed in front of me, I'm going to go double blast on everything. I'm going to shoot you with las cannons. I'm going to clear out most of that unit, right? Or alternatively, you can do grenades. You can do stern guard or flash damage, right? They'll do like a whole bunch of damage right up front.
Yeah.
So what I figured out is that absolutely that kind of dynamic is something that I think about in my list building, is that I want to make sure that I have a mix of those two things, because if you have too much gradualist damage, again, you'll find yourself frustrated when it's like, there's this thing in front of me, and if it doesn't die, I'm going to lose the game, right? Like Morty comes out and I'm like, I think I'll ponder no, dude, that guy has to go, right? He has to be gone by the end of the turn. Or alternatively, then you have stuff like Eradicators. I was like, oh, Eradicators are good. Like I played in the round before this, I played against a CSM guy who had a Forged Fiend. I was like, cool. I need that not to be there anymore, right? Because it's a living nightmare, right? As long as that Forged Fiend is out there doing packs, doing hazardous, right? I just can't win the game. And I was like, cool, come out this. And then the next turn, I got picked apart. Not shocking, right? They came in, died, did their job. That's great. And I think you just come up with different packages to do that, basically.
So just for completeness sake, could you run down the list that you've been working with for us?
Sure. Yeah. So the one that I played today was Azrael, 5 Stern Guard, Combi Lieutenant, then Intercessors, it was double Dev Sense, single E, and so Dev Sense, ERADs. It was a full 6-man ERAD brick. Triple Vanguard Vet, triple DWK. What am I missing? Scouts. It had scouts in it, which I didn't make the cut afterwards. I think they're one of those units that I can play well, but I don't really love. So my current iteration that I'm working on is Azrael, Combi Lieutenant, Intercessors, triple Dev Centurion, triple DWK, double Vanguard Vets, unit of bikes. And then it ends up, what I figured out is that Rock likes to have 13 units. 12 is okay, but I find that I come up a little bit short. 4 and 14 is okay too. I think that there's lots of units that are great in Rock. If you're like, man, I really like ATVs. ATVs are great, right? ATVs are great. Will they do damage? No, they will not, right?
No.
They will not, but they are hilariously hard to kill. They were hilariously hard to kill in Gladius, right? They're 8 wounds. Why are they 8 wounds? They don't give up anything either, right? I think that there's just for the sake of tell you guys some things that I've tested that I think are good but didn't make the cut. I think Ballistas are still perfectly good. I think a Hammer Strike's perfectly good. I would, if someone had a Vindicator, I wouldn't mock them, right? I think they're overpriced, but I also I don't plan to win the lottery, right? Which is what you need to do if you're going to play that unit. this is one man's opinion. I hate Lancers, right? Lancers to me are just a unit that it does not matter how many. They could give you endless rerolls, and for some reason you'd be like, I still only got one hit through, right? I don't know why that is. And then it's always on the rotated night that's like, I rolled a 4, right? Oh, cool, right? And then you're standing in the wind with a 10 toughness 10.
You shoot it at a ghost kill, and it's like, great, I blanked the damage, whatever.
Right.
Dang.
There's too many things that just don't care. You can't play it in a Necrons because it just gets auto-killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So unless you are a much luckier person than I am, I don't really recommend that unit. Some other stuff that I've tried, I think there's a world in which, I know this sounds insane, where Assault Centurions would work, right? If you were bananas, if you were like, I think I could make this work, right? With like Flamers, look at their melee. It's actually really quite good. It's 10 minus 2, 3. It's sustained into vehicles, so you can like punch Warglaves to death and stuff. And I expect to see a lot of that. Okay. I think that Grav Captain with Ancient Weapons is still very, very funny. Because he punches for 8 3 damage attacks, right? And he'll just like knock out things he shouldn't. He doesn't have a 2-up, which is like his major failing. He has all damage, but he eats like 1 damage like it's going out of style. I tested oh man, what didn't I test? I tested like I haven't gotten Grav to work, right? Grav always just gets melted, in my opinion. But I tested Ballistas. I also, contentious opinion, I still think there's a place for the Brutalis. The Brutalis is like a wild unit because if you look at it, everything on it rerolls wounds. Everything. Every gun and all the melee. And it's at a convenient punch point. It is at 12 minus 2, 3 apiece. Right? So like it'll punch a lot of stuff to death. Will it die? Yes. Is it overpriced? Yes, it is. But a Redemptor's also
doesn't mean you don't want it to be good. Yeah.
No, I want it to be good. If it were 20 points less, it would probably be in my list, right? And I also think that more Stern Guard's good. I think if you ran Hellblasters, I don't think it's bad. I haven't gotten it to work, but I should say my new version of the list runs a single unit of Bolter Inceptors. I think they're genuinely kind of irritating. And even if you're like, oh man, all I did was like put them in and they got it and they like dropped in my opponent's backfield and got me 4 unestablished and then died. Okay, so what you're telling me is you paid 120 points, your opponent had to go deal with them, and you got 4 points off it. Cool. That sounds good. Yeah. I'll take it. Right? Like
the sustain 2 on those 2 damage bolters, strength 5, 2 damage bolters with sustain 2 is, my mind was changed on them. I went to play at Dallas Open last year.
Yeah.
And ran into a lot of them and had my mind changed on them. So, yeah, I agree.
You can go up to strength 7 if you're like, I really need to kill blank. Yeah. Now, look, if something's sitting in cover, you probably won't kill it. But I was like, I need to kill Poxwalkers. Yes, you definitely kill Poxwalkers, right? It's resource intensive. You want to oath whatever it is. But if you were like, again, if you put it in your opponent's backfield, you get points off it. You often gauge, or you do establish, or you're like, I need big recover. I got to have me my big recover, or you drew a challenger card, and now you need to be in your opponent's backfield. Your opponent can't stop you, right? They can't easily stop you, not without overcommitting to their backfield. I think they're good. I think infiltrators, by the way, are perfectly okay. I wish they did any damage at all, right? I wish their knives did any damage, or their shooting did any damage. But like,
I like the idea of infiltrators in a Death Guard meta, with the Phobos Lieutenant. But next thing I'm like, I'm spending 170 points to do this. I better play a lot of Death Guard, and then I just wouldn't have a good time at that tournament.
Well, also, if your opponent so what I've usually found is this: your opponent's like, well, I guess I can't go to that spot. It'd be a shame if I had to like drop these. Like if it wasn't the case that there's nowhere on the board that I'm like, it'd be a-okay if there were like a Lord of Contagion and 3 Death Shroud Terminators, that'd be just fine, right? There's no spot on the board that's okay. And what they do is they just go, I'll just pick a different spot. And it's like, okay, well, that sucks there too, right? Like, I recognize that impedes their plan a little bit, but their plan is so good that I don't care, right? That I'm just like, I don't want it to happen anywhere. And so I think that I think that with the changes to Death Guard, again, I think plus 180 in my opinion was like a little light, not by much, maybe by 30.
It's not a points thing; it's a rules thing with Death Guard. So
think,
we'll have to see what the balanced data slate does, but that's kind of
I think at plus 180, it's enough that when Chris and I were building lists together, I was like, yeah, you have to drop this. You have to drop
two less bloat drones. Yeah.
No, you leave all the bloat drones. What you take out is you take out one unit of DST. Basically, you basically do 2 blobs of DST. I built a vehicles list, guys. It's upsetting. It is like 3 Mephitic Blight Haulers, 3 bloat drones, 3. It was like 11 vehicles plus the prince plus like units of poxwalkers. I was like, dude, you still got to remove like 3 vehicles a turn. That's so annoying. And like, look, it's easier than when it was 11 vehicles or it was 12 vehicles. But like, that is something that like, as again, it's one of the reasons I like stuff like Dev Centurions. I like anything that like, I wish that a ballistas, if I wish that it did kill a drone, but it doesn't, right? Mystifyingly, it never does. You'd be like, oh, strength 10. Yeah, it just doesn't do it, right? Because you're going to miss.
Maybe if they rerolled wounds as well, because they always roll 2s to wound.
If you're in Ultramarines,
just saying,
probably do it in Ultramarines. Yeah, but yeah. Well, wonderful. Anything else I could tell you, lads?
No, this has been quite instructive. I said I think you've done us a great solid here, and absolutely. I definitely appreciate your time. Bailey, you got anything else you want to jump in on?
No, I liked. If the listeners at home like go back and rewatch this and just pull out the things that Kyle was saying that aren't like points or rules dependent, because as we were just talking about the points in the data slate, those things always change. Like think about the lion, right? They literally just deleted a whole thing out of the rule book that's invalidated. It doesn't exist anymore, and people still haven't caught on, and you keep seeing it in Dark Angels competitive groups on Facebook. We're like, well, what happened to the Watcher's ability? And it's like, it's gone. Like that's been gone.
Took it out. Yeah.
But looking at like
talking about recommend buying DevSense, because I think they're going to get. Yeah, I think they're going to get gotted in 11th edition. But
I think that's fairly likely. I think that I will be a sad man who owns a lot of DevSense. But you know what? What I do with my armies is I just go through rotation, and then every time something gets legended, I'm like, okay, up onto the legended shelf. And then eventually what happens is I'm like, I need a proxy for blank, or I want to turn blank into something. Oh, I need obliterators, right?
Yeah.
Then they truly do
exactly.
turn chaos.
Yeah.
but yeah, keeping that in mind too, because people just like lose their minds about legends, and it's like what goes around comes around. And like I said, if you play multiple armies, you can get creative. But like thinking about flash damage units versus gradual units, that I thought was interesting. Where like there's like a specific number of units that's important, because one of the things that Keith and I have noticed as we look at lists in these like giant columns every month, the lists that seem to do really well just happen to have 3 characters. Doesn't matter what 3 they are. It's just there are 3. The lists that do well have 3. No more, no less. And so it's interesting that you were like, I have a very specific number of units that I think works. And those are the kinds of things that I like to hold on to, because it doesn't matter how the points change or how the rules on any individual units might change. If I can keep to these like core concepts of how Dark Angels work,
I need this many things to interact with the game.
Yeah.
Right. Like I need this many units that can actually go hurt and fight and kill things, and this many units as my secondary. Right. So
yeah. Well, I think about with Deathwing Knights, right? Like they keep increasing the points and decreasing the points, increasing the points, and we're still just running 3 squads. It's changed so many times, and they've changed how big the squads are. Right, like that was the big thing. We got limited to just 5, but people are still like, "Yeah, I'm still gonna run 15 of them." Oh, you're gonna knock it up to 250? I'm still running. I'll cut everything else out of my army to keep these 3 units.
When they were only AP1, then I think we were off that. But when they went to AP2, that's when now they are the required level of killy to be able to interact with the game in a meaningful way.
That's what moved me over
so,
to Dark Angels. Yeah.
Yeah. Kyle, where are you at on Inner Circle Companions?
That's a good question.
I like
I
them
know
with
it's a very
Azzy.
broad question, but yeah.
I like them with Azzy because then they have a 4-up, -1 to hit, -1 to wound. So if you're like, you know what, man, I don't need the shooting. I got another way I want to deliver it. Here's the one challenge is that I like them a lot better, by the way, with -1 to hit or -1 to hit, -1 to wound. I think that they're quite a bit better there.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge is, and they will kill most anything, right?
Very true.
So if you were like, I really want to build hyper melee, I'm going to build for teams, and I'm not going to worry about any shooting, no ballistas, no nothing. Cool. Okay, so let's do Azzy with ICC. Let's do triple DWK. Let's go wild. Let's do assault intercessors with our murder captain, right? Or we're going to do Stern Guard with our murder captain, whatever you want to do. That's great, right? Like that's a definite build that exists. In my experience, ICC are good, but again, they suffer sometimes when your opponent's like, when you're like, haha. Let's put it this way: they're a late game tool because if you bring them out early, your opponent's like, I have a Forge Fiend. Okay, that's real bad. I have a blow
Forge Fiend, Scott.
Yep. Especially if you're playing against like world eaters and they're like, I reroll all my hits and okay, well you hit on 5s, we get 8 million shots, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And every time they kill one of them, it's 30. I tend to, because I don't like to risk Azzy that much, like what I like about Stern Guard is that when Azzy is unfair is when he activates in 2 phases. When he activates in 2 phases, he's like, cool, I shoot you for a whole bunch, and then I run in and stab you for more further dev wounds because I'm going to add insult to injury, right? And he's got 5 ablative idiots to soak up the damage at 20 ppm. If you want Azrael to go kill anyone, he'll do that, right? With ICC, absolutely. But if you think about it, like, okay, what do the ICC give him? Okay, they give him +1 to hit. That's not particularly good, right? Against character units, right?
Yeah.
He gives them sustained, which is indeed good. I guess they don't give him lethal, right?
No.
And he doesn't give them sustained if they do the little sweeps, which are often bananas, right? They're really good. But it's not like he's like, now you're sustained 3 right now. They're still just sustained 2, which is already
right.
I, by no stretch of the imagination, think they're bad. I think that I would be more inclined to run them with a librarian because they're a little bit of a risky unit. Is the librarian good in melee? No. Is it good in shooting? Oddly, kind of not either, depending on how many dice you roll, right? And so that's where I sort of landed on them, is that they haven't made my way into the list because as long as if I was playing Gladius, or I was playing Stormlance, or I was playing something else, I probably would include them because they're quite good in Gladius because they can get that +1 to wound, and all of a sudden they just will like mulch whatever, right? I probably would run them in Stormlands because they're super duper fast, but in Wrath of the Rock, they're not a bad ad. They're just not amazing, right? They are unfair when they're unfair, and then they make me sad when my opponent's like, I see you have this valuable resource, I'm going to kill that, and I'm going to kill Azzy, and it's like,
yeah,
I hope it's turn 4.
Yeah,
right?
I had that happen to me where where like I played Chris the other day, where like I had the librarian with the 6 inner circle companions, and my opponent charged the Incarn into something near them so I could lean and aggression them in. And then he's like, all right, Incarn's just going to kill those 5 Space Marines because they're stupid and they want to fight me. And I went, all right, I'm -1 to hit wound and I have a 4-up invuln. And he killed one guy and was like, well, that's stupid. And then I went, all right, here's all my dice. Pick up the Incarn. He's like, I hate those things. And then immediately a whole full squad of Bright Lances came out of nowhere and killed them the next turn. Right. I was like, well, that was really cool. I killed the Incarn, which I have a hard time doing historically. But yes, they definitely, when my opponent still had his like big checkmate piece in Bright Lances, they were not nearly as cool. But then that also brought the Bright Lances out, where my Deathwing Terminators could walk over and charge the Bright Lances and be like, all right, well, now that you don't have Lance because I charged you first, you die this time. And then my opponent was like, I don't want to play this game anymore. And I'm like, that's how these guys work, man.
I will say too that if you are in a, like, I'm not running vehicles because I don't want to give up bid, right? I just like when my opponent's like, and bid, oh, nothing, right? Also, that is one reason, by the way, to run Lion, is it is very funny when your opponent's like, I drew bid, and you're like, hang on to it, sucker. Lion's still sitting in my fort, right? Like, it is funny when it works that way. When I was in teams, my team was like, play one ballistas for us. And so I played one ballistas, but like 50% of the time it backfired because they could kill the ballistas, and I was like, well, that's a bummer, right?
Yeah.
But if you run a transport, they're great because they only take up one spot, right? They aren't like Centurions, they aren't like Terminators, right? They only take up one. And so if you run like a Rep-X, if you're excited about Rep-X's, it's not a bad unit, right? You could be like, okay, I'm going to get these out and then do a bunch of damage, right? What I would say is when you think about your list, think about in the meta what problems you're trying to solve. I'm trying to solve for blank, right? Like, okay, I know that there's 8 million T9 bodies out there. There's all these knights, there's all these drones, right? I need to be able to remove T9 at lightning pace, right? And then say, okay, well, I want to use this unit to do that. I want to use this unit to do this. And look, you can have other answers. You can be like, I can't kill all the drones, so I'm just going to touch them, right? I'm going to run 3 units of Vanguard Vets. I'm going to run 3 units of JPI, and I'm never going to get shot by a bloat drone again because I'm just going to touch all of them, right? That works. Right. You'll lose like a lot of models, right? But like, if your goal is to win the game, which it is, then it's perfectly fine because you're like, okay, well, you can't go where you want to when I'm touching you, right? Also, I probably dinged and done some chip damage, and now I'm going to kill you with another gradualist unit, right? And so when you're thinking about solutions, your solution doesn't have to be I kill blank with blank. ICC's solution is always I kill blank with blank. I got plenty of units that kill blank with blank, right? And so I think there's plenty of things that do that role just fine for me. And so I haven't felt the need to use them. Are they a good unit? Yeah, they're a good unit. Blade Guard are a good unit too, right? That's one of the things that Marines are sort of blessed with is there's like 6 units I can name off the top of my head that are in the 80-point slot that are all good. Intercessors are good. Incursors are good. Bikes are good, especially in Wrath of the Rock. Blade Guard are good. ICC hover right around that again. So I think it's a matter of what the question is, and once you know what the question is, then you can figure out how you want to answer it.
Right.
Well, all right, Kyle, I know it's late where you guys are at, so I appreciate your time very much. If you'd be interested in coming on and chatting with us again sometime, we'd love to have you.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to meet you guys in person.
I was saying, thanks. We'll be in touch.
See you.